Every movie shows gladiators drenched in blood, fighting until one drops dead. But what if I told you most gladiators actually survived their battles? What if the arena was not a place of certain death, but a stage of spectacle, politics, and profit? Gladiators in Rome were not simply doomed slaves thrown into an arena for entertainment. They were carefully trained fighters, living contradictions in Roman society, both slaves and stars, both victims and icons. Gladiators were expensive. Training one took years, and the cost of food, shelter, and constant medical care was enormous. Owners viewed them as investments, not as disposable bodies. To lose a gladiator in every fight would mean financial ruin. That is why, despite what Hollywood tells us, most gladiatorial games did not end in death. Defeat, yes. Injury, often. But death, it was rare. The truth is that gladiators were worth far more alive than dead. The economy of the arena was a carefully calculated machine. Gladiator schools, known as ludi, were businesses. The lanista, or trainer, rented out his fighters to wealthy politicians and emperors who wanted to impress the public. Every match was designed not only to entertain, but also to reinforce power. When a gladiator lost, he would raise his finger in submission. The crowd might roar for mercy or cry out for death. But the ultimate decision lay with the sponsor of the games. And here lies the irony. Most of the time, mercy was granted. Why? Because a dead gladiator could never fight again, and the crowd wanted to see their favorite fighters return. The arena was not about mass slaughter. It was about drama, suspense, and the illusion of life or death stakes. Many gladiators became celebrities in their own right. Their names were carved on walls, sung in taverns, whispered by women, and admired by children. Like modern athletes, they carried fame and influence. Some even won their freedom after years of fighting. Coins bore their images, and their popularity sometimes rivaled that of senators. In this sense, gladiators were not so different from the sports superstars we admire today. They were men forced into brutal circumstances, but many became icons of strength, courage, and even beauty. But how often did they truly die? Archaeological and historical studies suggest that the mortality rate per match was likely under 10%. This is lower than what most people expect, and even comparable to the risks of modern extreme sports. Death did happen, especially in special events designed as executions, or in fights staged purely for punishment. But in standard matches, the aim was not to kill, but to impress. A gladiator who fought well, even in defeat, was often spared. His skill and bravery made him valuable, both as an entertainer and as an investment. So why do we believe that every gladiatorial fight ended in death? This myth is not Roman. It is modern. In the 19th and 20th centuries, novelists, painters, and filmmakers created a bloodier image of the arena than reality ever provided. Operas depicted horned helmets and rivers of blood. Hollywood films like Spartacus and Gladiator amplified this legend, cementing in our minds the idea of endless slaughter. The truth was far more complex. The Colosseum was indeed a place of violence, but it was also a theater of politics, economics, and culture. The Roman emperors understood this perfectly. Games were tools of propaganda. They were bred in circuses, distractions that kept the masses loyal and entertained. Gladiators were pawns in this system, but they were also performers. When they stepped into the arena, they were acting out roles in a deadly play. Sometimes the ending was tragic, but more often it was a cliffhanger, leaving the audience hungry for the next performance. So the image of the arena soaked in endless blood, of men doomed to certain death, is a distortion of history. Gladiators were not mindless victims. They were survivors. They were businessmen, entertainers, warriors, and in many cases, stars. They lived on the thin line between death and glory. But most of them walked away from the sand to fight another day. So next time you imagine the Colosseum echoing with screams, remember this: gladiators were not disposable. They were investments, celebrities, and performers in a deadly game of power. Death was rare. Survival was the show. This is just one of many. Follow for more.